Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Just thought do a bit of a preview. Big squad announcement on Tuesday. Massive for all those players who want to go to the World Cup. We've got a 43-man squad that's going to be trying to be into a 33-man squad. And yeah, there's a lot of candidates. A lot of players put their hands up in these tests and some very difficult decisions waiting on the Bok management. But yeah, let's go through it and let's see, what factors, and try and make you understand a bit more of the factors that goes into this thinking, and then who my choices would be and who the choices I think they're going to make would be, and go through all that and maybe pick a squad at the end there. Let's see how it goes. First of all, with the factors going into it, I think World Cups. First of all, should I say, let's start in the beginning. The last World Cup was in Japan. It was extremely difficult logistically to get players over there quickly. If a player had an injury on a Thursday or Friday before a game, very difficult to get players over there. So this time it's in France. It's an overnight flight, so they feel a bit more comfortable in maybe making a couple bold decisions, because if there is an injury, they can bring a player over pretty quickly. That being said, 33 players is two more than in Japan. They had 31 there, so 33 players going into that squad for France would give them an extra option. Probably an extra forward, extra back would be, but knowing some teams probably take two extra forwards, given the high attrition rate of a World Cup. We've seen in the two times that South Africa won the World Cup, 2007, 2019, there were two injuries in the first week. And two other players came in. So I think if players don't make the World Cup squad, it's not the end of the road. It's not the end of the world. They could easily find themselves in the World Cup with an injury or two. Hoping that doesn't happen, of course. But that is the reality of the situation. So you might find a player who thought he'd missed his World Cup dream and still gets a chance there. Also, the Boks are going to name 38 players and not 33. There's 5 players going with them for these warm-up games in the UK against Wales and New Zealand. That's just basically to make sure that they've got enough people on standby if there's an injury, and plus players to be in the mix for the next 2 weeks to train with the squad, so it makes it easier for them to come in. Plus it makes it easier with training with 5 extra players, so then you basically can have easily 2 run-on squads play against each other. That's the reason for that. Couple of very difficult decisions, and I'll go into the thinking of some of them and just show you the way the Boks will be thinking. So let's start with the elephant in the room. That's the injured players. Siya Kolisi, Handré Pollard, Oxenchair. All 3 players are injured. They haven't played this international season. The Boks have all decided that all 3 of them are worthy of getting a spot if they fit. And we still will, if they fit, but I think they're going to give them right until the last moment, so they will be named in the team. First, let's start with Ox. He was another week or two, about a week and a half ago, they said 4 weeks, so that's a conservative estimate, so he could probably be playing by the time they play Wales. If not the week against New Zealand, I think that would be the week that everybody needs to be fit and get a game. So Handré Pollard, also we've been told that he'll be ready by Wales. We hope he'll be ready by Wales, should I say. Jacques Nienaber tried to play down that suggestion when it came up in the press conference. There is some concern that Handré might not be ready for that game against Scotland. I suppose he's so important to them and so important to the Bok plans that they will give him every moment. So a calf injury is a tough one. Be interesting to see how they take that one as well. And then Siya Kolisi, of course, who will be there no matter what happens to him. There's been some talk that he's getting some special treatment for his knee. We all hope that Siya will be ready and be alright. He's such an influential player to the Springboks as well, especially in the leadership role as well in the team. So all 3 of them are going to be ready. So that takes 3 spots out of it, and that also influences their thinking a lot going into the selection. Obviously, if those 3 players are fit, then it's a lot easier to make the squad, and it gets a more rounded balance, because all 3 players are hugely important to the Springbok campaign. But if they're not, we'll go through some of the possible replacements for them as well, if they don't happen to make it. But at the moment, there's no indication that nobody won't make it either. Then comes the argument of specialists against versatility. Now, World Cups have shown, and the Boks like to use versatile players. utility forwards, utility backs. Think of a guy like Damian Willemse, can play through basically anywhere in the back line. Jesse Creel, who can cover 13 and 14 and 15. Yeah, I mean, those are the type of players. The Kanye who's played wing and centre for the Boks. Damon Delender's played more than one position as well. In the forwards, Franco Mostert, Dion Fourie, the type of guys, Jean-Luc Dupria, all have played more than one position as well. And it's understandable, especially in terms of a team context, why you want players with versatility, especially when you're limited to the amount of players you can take into a World Cup. I think the Boks have got a good idea who their first choice players are. And then having a guy on the bench that's versatile, that can cover more than one position, gives you more room to do the bomb squad, gives you more room to do other things in the squad, and just gives you also that when those so-called smaller games against Romania and Tonga, not that I think that Tonga is going to be a very small game, it's going to be extremely physical. When those games come along, you can play around a bit with your selections as well, because you've got the versatility. So that's going to be a big factor, and I mean, it influences selections as well. Now, we're going to go through it now, exactly where it influences selections. You can hear some of the problems that the Boks do have when it comes to that. Okay, so then the key thing is forwards against backs. What's the split going to be? Most teams have opted for a 19-14 split. In terms of 19 forwards and 14 backs, that's the ideal opportunity. That's the one most sides are probably going to go for. 18-15, probably not so much, depending on what your resources are. Forwards have a higher attrition rate, so you're probably going to see a couple more of them go than that win teams. And I don't know if you've got such a versatile squad that you can go for 20-13. But 19-14 seems to be the split that everybody's talking about, and that's quite understandable as well. Okay, the next thing you've got to factor in is obviously players who put up their hands, players who've come through, form versus experience. Now, the Boks are very keen on not throwing away experience. They've won a World Cup. They've backed a lot of those players through tough times as well, and those players have delivered for them. So there's no reason to throw away players. Although when it comes to some selections, it's going to be quite difficult to make a choice. There are some selections that are going to be very tough considering, and that's where the versatility argument is really going to play a part. Do they take a versatile player? Do they reward form? Do they stick with experience? Or in a case like a winger like Caelan Moody, who already put his hand up in Buenos Aires, how do they leave a guy like that out? But if you take him, who do you leave out? Do you go with does Makazole Mapimpi stay at home? I can't see Rossi dropping him. He's been such a big part of the Bok team, such a big part of the success story under Rossi and Jacques. I don't know. It's a tough one. But let's go into the way the squad probably is going to be sort of comprised. And it's quite easy. I mean, if you go through, if we take that we're working on a 19-14 basis, then it's quite easy, because then what you do is you basically say, okay, you start off with the props. There should be either 5 or 6 props. You have to have 4 at least, obviously, and you can't play the same guys through the tournament. The option would probably be for 6 props, with the final 2 being swingers, so-called props that can play both sides. Some teams might try with 5. I can't see the Boks doing that, seeing as how the scrum is such a big part of their game plan, and the props they have as well. I think they will take 6 as well, to be honest. Then you look at hookers, 3 hookers, the specialist positions, hookers and scrum halves, 3 at least. In the Boks case, it's pretty easy to do 3. In both situations, they got 5 scrum halves that must go into 3. So how do you leave out 2 of them? So those are the first two positions. Locks and loose forwards. There's usually 4 locks, 5 loose forwards. That will give you 9. Do my maths, 12 with the hookers, and 6, 18. So you could probably got 6 loose forwards and 4 locks. In the Boks case, they've got some utilities as well. So if you decide to take utilities, you have to factor that in as well. But so there will be 4 locks and 6 loose forwards in one form or another, and the Boks have got some leeway on that one as well, which we'll get into now. Then looking at 2 tens that they'll take. They've got in terms of utility players, the Boks have got a couple there as well that can also fall in. And then the question becomes: do you take 4 wingers, 4 midfielders, or 3 wingers, 4 midfielders, 3 midfielders, 4 wingers, that sort of thing. We'll get into that right now as well. Okay, it's probably easier to follow if we go through the squad and go through some of the guys that are in contention. Okay, so let's look at the props, the contenders in the 40. I'm going to stick to the 43-man squad. Those are the guys in the squad as well. That includes Sia, Handré, and Ox. At prop, I think the discussions of who's going is probably quite an easy argument. You've got Vincent Koch, Ox and Che, Steven Kitzel, Frans Malherbe, Trevor Nyakani, Gerard Steenkamp, and Thomas du Toit. So you've got 7 props. You're probably going to go with 6. Gerard Steenkamp, as good as he was in Buenos Aires on his debut, is probably the guy who's going to drop off there if I have a look at that. Again, in this argument, I'm assuming that you're going with the same sort of feeling that they've had over the past few years and being close to the team. They like to have the guys come off the bench and with that impact. So then the 2 swinger props in Trevor and Thomas du Toit. If you go with 5 props, you're going to have to choose between one of them. I don't see the box doing that. See them probably going with six props there. Loose hookers, it's a bit of a different story. I think Malcolm and Bongi captained the team against Argentina. Malcolm Marx is seen as probably one of the best in the world. Those 2 are definitely going. The question comes in the 3rd hooker. Do you take Joseph Dweba or do you go for utility? The Boks have the luxury that they've got a Dion Fourie who can play flank and hooker, and in a World Cup thing that can come quite into play. Plus, that if there is an injury, you can get Joseph over quite quickly as well. My dog's at the Volodymyr, sorry. Anyway, then moving to locks. This is where it becomes a bit more complicated. I think we could probably all agree that Eben Etzebeth, Lut de Jager, Erkje Snyman are probably going. Even though Lut hasn't had much game time and had a withdrawal in Buenos Aires, he's so important to the Boks, I think he's definitely going. So then it becomes a question, do you take 4 locks, or 5 locks and 5 loose forwards, or 6 loose forwards, 4 locks? That's the sort of thing they have to think about. If those 3 are going, then you're going to say to yourself, okay, the other 2 locks in the squad are Marvin and John Klein. Marvin Urie. And if you look at it, the Boks also have the luxury of having 3 players who can go as utilities as well in this selection. They're all listed as loose forwards, but all 3 can play lock if they need to. That's Franco Mostert, we're looking at Jean-Luc Dupré, and obviously Pieter-Steph du Toit. Although I don't think you'd want to move Pieter-Steph du Toit from the 7th position if you're the Bok coach as well. So if you come to that, then you say to yourself, well, if one of the 2 comes down to it, Marvin Urie's got great line-out calling qualities. He's a 5 lock, although they don't actually have too many 4 locks in that squad. So it depends who they're going to choose as a cover. So then John Klein's work rate and ball carrying skills and physicality comes into play. So that's going to be a very interesting selection. Do they take 4 locks? Do they take 5? I can see probably going with Jean Klein and maybe Marvin losing out there. But it depends what's important to the Bok camp. So that's going to be an interesting one as well. Then we look at the back row. If you talk about six loose forwards, if you take a Dion Fourie as a hooker, then it rules him out there. You've got Evan Ruys, Sia Kolisi, Franco Mostert, Jean-Luc Dupré, Kwagga Smith, Marco van Staan, Pieter-Steph du Toit, Dwayne Vermeulen, and Jasper Wiese. I think we can take it for granted that Sia is definitely going. I think we can take it for granted that Pieter-Steph is definitely going. I think we can take it for granted Dwayne Vermeulen is definitely going. So those 3, and then if you take Franco Mostert as a utility as well, I can't see them dropping him. He was our most consistent player last year. Okay, then you've got 4 or 6 already. Then Jasper Wiese, who's been the number 8 until Dwayne had this good run this year, he's probably the 5th one. So then you're left with Kwagga Smith, Jean-Luc Dupré, Marco van Staden, and Evan Ruys. And in that case, I think Kwagga has probably been worth more to the Boks over the last year, and so in their thinking, so he'll probably go. I can't see any changes there. Although, be interesting. Maybe they can find a way of if they take one less lock, and maybe find one of those guys a place. But I think those are the guys that are probably going to lose out. Moving on to the backs. Now then we get to the scrum halves. The conundrum of the scrum halves. How do you make 5 go into 3? Because you've got Faf de Klerk, Jaden Hendrickse, Grant Williams, Kobus Reinach, and Herschel Yankees. None of them have played badly. Some of them, Jaden hasn't played because he had the family tragedy, but the Boks, he was the number one scrum half at one stage last year. Displaced Faf de Klerk in the starting lineup. I think he's going. I think Faf's definitely going. I think those two. So then you got to choose one out of Grant Williams, Kobus Reinach, and Herschel Yankees. At first thought, I would say Herschel's probably going to lose out on that sort of vote. And then it comes down to, do you take the young upstart who's really shown his worth and his speed in 2 games in the rugby championship and really has come through, or do you take the experience of Kobus Reinach? It's a difficult one. I'd say in that one, if it was me, I might go for Grant Williams. I just think he gives them that bit of X factor that they probably need at this World Cup. Not that Kobus Reinach can't, but I think Grant Williams is probably the future of the Bok team as well. So that would be my choice if it was me. But it's going to be a very tough call for them to make. Flavs, I think it's relatively settled. Mani the Bok is there. Andre Pollard's there. Those two are pretty settled. I think Elton Yankees will stay at home. Damien Willemse will be as cover for them as well as the utility back. So I think he's also there. Villiers is there as fullback. So I think those two, they can also play 10 as well if needed in emergency. So they've got enough cover there as well. So that's going to be the Flav. Now we get to the tough one, which is the midfield. I don't think anybody who's watched the Bok games this year would say that nobody in that midfield deserves to lose out in a place. Damien de Lende, De Kanye Am, both have been stalwarts for the Boks. Andre Esterhuizen's been in a sensational form. And Jesse Kriel has been sort of the rock in the midfield there. He showed again this weekend in Argentina how good he was defensively and how good he was on attack as well. He's really somebody who's always been good for the Boks as well and doesn't get half the credit he deserves. So then you say to yourself, well, if none of them deserve to lose out, then who do we go for then? Then do you drop a winger to make that 14-man squad? Because remember, if you've got 3 scrum halves, 2 flavs, and a utility back in Damien Willemse and Villiers at fullback, that's 7 spots. So then you've got 7 spots left. You've got 4 wingers and 4 midfielders. Then one of them is going to lose out somewhere along there. So if you say those 4 are fine, and you look at the wingers, Kanan Moody, Kurt Lee Orense, Cheslin Colby and Makazole Mapimpi. If one of them has to lose out, who loses out? Kurt Lee scored 10 tries in 11 games. Cheslin Colby could probably walk into any team worldwide at the moment. Kanan Moody had this amazing game in Buenos Aires, so how do you leave him out of a team? And Makazole Mapimpi has been almost the soul of that backline as well, and such a big part of their win in 2019. And just because he had 1 or 2 games where he wasn't at his absolute best, thought he was quite good in Buenos Aires. Do you drop a guy like that? I don't know. One of these is going to be a very difficult call for the Boks, and I don't know how they're going to make it. I can't see them dropping one of those guys. The guy I think the most threat in the midfield, probably Andre Esterhuizen. The guy I see most at threat on the wing is probably Makazole Mapimpi. But how you make that decision, I don't know. I think it's such a difficult one, and for the balance of the squad, especially what Makazole means for the squad, how do you drop a guy like that? That is not my decision. Be a very difficult one to take, I must admit. So that's the contenders. And I suppose now I should pick my squad. So this is my squad, which I'd pick as well. I think some tough calls made there. It's very tough to do this, but I would probably have gone. That's my 6 props. I would have gone with 6 props. Would have used Dion Fourie as the third hooker. So Joseph Dwever would miss out on mine. Although I think it's a very tough call to make. Marvin Ari probably would miss out on mine as well for Jean Klein. I just don't think we have backup for Eben Etzebeth if he does go down. It's a purely rugby decision. Sia, Kwacha, Peter Steph, Dwayne and Jasper Visser would be my loose forwards with Franco Molstedt as the utility. Backs, Jaden Hendrickson, Grant Williams, Faf de Klerk. I would go for Grant as the third guy, just because I think he's the future of the team and it will do them well to have some sort of X factor in that team. Midfield, I've gone for all four midfielders. I think Lucanio and Jesse can cover at wing if we really need to. Not that I'd really want to play them there, but I think Kanan played himself into the team for me. Kurt Lee, I feel, has broken the door down for the last couple of tests as such, so he definitely deserves to be there. Cheslin Colby. Makazola loses out for me because Damien Willemse can also play wing as well, and Valerio at the back there. It's a tough squad to choose. They might not make the same decisions as me, but that would be my squad to take. Who's right, who's wrong? My squad never has to get onto the field, so it's tough always to say. But yeah, that's the team I'd pick. And let me know who you pick. What decisions would you make differently? Do you agree with the way I see them picking the squad? And who do you think would be unlucky in your squad if you had a pick? Let me know. No disrespect to all the players. I think any one of these 43 could be in that squad, and it's terrible that somebody has to fall out at the end of the day. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, and yeah, please keep on watching these videos and subscribe.